Hi, everyone. My name is Megan O'Rourke, and I'm the Associate Director of Programs for the University of San Diego Alumni Association. I'm also a proud alumna of the class of 2015. We are happy to have you for today's Inland Empire Torero Club event that is featuring the Inland Empire's very own Anna Yeager Lee, class of 2002, and founder/owner of Women in Tandem, a community-based workspace for women living in Riverside. 2020 has been an interesting year, especially through our work at the University of San Diego. However, during this time, we are continuing our efforts to keep alumni engaged with and connected to the university. In an effort to support our many alumni-owned businesses, we have created the Alumni Business Spotlight Series, where we chat with our alumni entrepreneurs, learn a bit about their company, and how we, as an alumni association, can help support them in their business during this time. We will begin the program with the conversation between Anna and myself, and we will field some questions asked during registration afterwards. Should you have any specific questions for Anna during the event, please put them in the Q&A feature and we will address them at the end of our conversation. All right, let's get started. At this time, I'd like to ask Anna to turn on her camera and mic, and we will go ahead with our conversation. Welcome.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be back at USD.
You know, I will admit I am on campus right now filming this, but that is, I am not in front of the Immaculata, as you all probably would assume.
I think it's fitting because that's where Aromas was, where I worked when I was in undergrad. So.
Oh, very fun. Wait, what's your favorite thing from Aromas then?
It was a soy milk latte.
Oh, delicious. Well, you know what? We could talk about USD all day and we'll have a little bit more time for that at the end, but let's get going in our conversation. What do you think?
I'm excited.
Perfect. All righty. Why don't you go ahead and start telling us about Women in Tandem?
So Women in Tandem is a lounge and workspace for women to focus, connect, and get stuff done. We're located in downtown Riverside, and it's a physical workspace that's also a lounge area. So anybody who is starting a business, growing a business, or is trying to figure out what their next professional goal is, we are their spot away from home to focus without distractions and get all the resources, amenities, programming they need so they're not wasting their time.
That's awesome. So tell us about the story of WIT. I know that you have an interesting past. You haven't been in this space for a long time. So why don't you kind of actually, I'm going to pivot a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your career before Women in Tandem and then get into Women in Tandem and this creation of it?
No problem. I worked as a public defender for 10 years. So WIT has been open a little more than a year. So we've been in business during COVID longer than not in COVID. But the idea started while I was working as a public defender. So I actually went to law school at USD as well. And I did an internship with the San Diego Public Defender's Office while I was there. That changed the course of what I was going to do. Loved it. So I worked for San Bernardino Public Defender's Office for 10 years. And the last 7 years, I was in our juvenile department, and I specialized in specialty courts for kids, drug court, mental health court, dependency court, and girls court for girls in the life of human trafficking. So that was kind of what I did towards the end of my career.
All righty. And then, so you said that WIT has only been alive or been around for just a little bit over a year. So tell me why you wanted to get into starting this business and what attracted about the community-based workspace for women that you really wanted to bring to Riverside.
So I was working 10 years as an attorney. 7 of those years I had kids. So I have 3 kids, and I was doing maternity leave, going back full-time, then part-time, still volunteering in my community. I helped start PIC Group of Young Professionals, a young professionals organization here in Riverside. So we were doing all those things at the same time. And I realized I had a peer group of working women that we were feeling the same thing. We wanted to do it all, but felt like we weren't doing it very well. So it initially started as, wouldn't it be cool if there was some place we could go that wasn't as public as a coffee shop, that wasn't a bar at night, that was just as cozy as our home, but we didn't have to do the laundry or the dishes or feel like we're cleaning up, or we could meet friends in yoga pants, but still be cozy and comfy. So it's kind of how it started. And then realized, like, I'm not a business coach, I'm not a life coach, But in Riverside, it's like, I know who to tell you to go talk to about that thing, or I know who you should connect with if you're really looking into that. So I kind of wanted to create this hub for women in Riverside to feel like it was a safe space to pursue their next thing.
I love that. I wish, we probably might have something in San Diego for that, but if we don't, there you go. Alrighty, so I'm going to skip around some of the questions to kind of follow that up. So you've been an entrepreneur and a working mom for 10 years. How do you manage it all?
So I think that's the big trick question. You don't. So just accept it. And I think different things take different priorities at different times. I heard a great example that working moms, it's like you have a bunch of balls in the air, but some are glass and some are plastic. So at some point, the glass ones are the ones that don't need a break, but a lot of the plastic ones are going to fall, and different things take priority. Before we had kids, my husband and I were at community events, fundraisers, meetings, engagements, almost every single night of the week. And we made sure, though, that some of the organizations we were both a part of, so at least we knew we were seeing each other, and that became our peer circle of people. And then I think being realistic that once you start having kids, it does change. So keep that positivity around you about your peer group, that people that understand engaging with kids, or that you can't come to as many things. My husband and I still strongly believe in serving the community. So we would bring our kids to as many things as we could that was respectable to bring kids to, just so they got exposed that this is part of the norm. So I think I don't want people to believe that you can't do a lot of things, but just know that different seasons will have different priorities. And I think if you really think about it before you commit to something, anything you commit to, assume it's going to be 3 times as much as the time commitment anybody tells you. And if you're okay with that, then proceed. If not, it may be not right now.
Awesome. So what is the most rewarding part of owning your own business, and what is the most challenging?
I think it's the same answer, being being the boss. The rewarding part is that you actually get to implement your vision and see it happen. I think the hardest part is having the responsibility of it all to make it happen. I've told several people before that I think everybody should have to work on a political campaign. Everybody should have to do like a year of service, and everybody should have to own their own business. I've learned more in the last 2 years than I learned in 10 years as a lawyer, just in terms of navigating the world of business, because you have to do it all yourself.
And what are some of the pivots that you've had to do because of COVID? I imagine you probably didn't open up the space thinking that we wouldn't be able to congregate in person. So tell us a little bit about that.
So a lot of workspaces, the idea is that density is how you make money. You get as many people to buy memberships and come in. And COVID is certainly not an advocate for dense workspaces. Luckily, I kept my footprint pretty small when I initially took this leap to see if I could grow. We're about 1,500 square feet, so I didn't start any bigger. So that was helpful. But we were forced to shut down as part of the state shutdown March 17th. I created community over COVID yard signs. And so I sold those in the community and advertised them as a way to say hi to your neighbors. This was when everybody was basically staying in their house and just going for walks, but a way to say, we're going to come through this together. I finally created a Facebook page for our members to kind of just engage with each other. And we had like a daily check-in. How are you on a scale of 1 to 10? We had members start asking, what are your go-to recipes? Now that I'm home cooking every single meal, mine are getting old. We started an online book club. It was something I wasn't ready to implement yet because it wasn't my passion, but people have been asking for it. So it was a great opportunity to just do it and introduce it virtually. A lot of our programming and classes, HR for small businesses, legal for small businesses, makeup tutorials for Zoom. We did those and provided that to our members. So we ended up providing a lot of stuff online. And our most recent addition is we added retail. So we offer curbside delivery, local pickup, and we have online retail. And it's really to make giving easy for women. So everything we do is to make women more efficient so they can keep doing all the things they want to do. And one of them is now with Amazon and buying things so much, we have gift sets. We have all the things that would be perfect for any woman. So the retail is kind of a pivot until we get more people back in the space, but we are open right now.
I really admire your creativity. I think a lot of, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of businesses that maybe have not been able to come out on the end of it. But I think because you're quick on your feet and always wanting to be innovative, that's been really helpful to you. And goodness, I need some of those tips. I feel like I'm looking at a camera and not looking so good on Zoom. So maybe I need to watch the makeup one. Okay, so we have a couple more questions. You talked about now being a business owner. You obviously, or not obviously, but maybe are probably managing people and having kind of a tribe and a team that's underneath you. Talk about that experience and how that differs from experiences that you've been a part of in the past.
So it takes a lot of extra work, not just to be the boss. I mean, I had 2 part-time employees before COVID. I had to let them go. And then I've rehired one. It's a different animal because they're not a personal assistant and you want them to grow with your company. So I think really trying to understand people's personalities and your own strengths is huge in leading other people. And any business owner, if COVID taught me anything, it's not hard. There's a little bit of a line about selling a product when people are suffering and there's things happening. So I think the initial COVID situation meant you need to stand out as a leader in your own community. That was part of the community over COVID signs, highlighting what people were doing. Part of my mission is that people will keep serving Riverside. I don't want people to give up because there's so much hard work to do in their personal, professional lives that they're not helping their community as well. And I think actually being a leader, giving people the information and the resources. Here's what the county website says. Here's where you can go get tested. Here's what you need to follow as a professional with human resources in your own business before you let people back. This is what you need to do. So I think if you haven't yet, take the Gallup Strength Finders test, know what your strengths are. The whole idea behind that is that you're not necessarily trying to fix your weaknesses, just play to your strengths. Another one is an Enneagram personality test, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's understanding where you're coming from and why you respond differently to other people.
And then the last question that I have for you until we get into some fun ones is what would you like your fellow USD alumni to know about your business, i.e. rental, not so much rental space, but what can people, give us the breakdown. What's going on at Women in Tandem?
Love, and I don't know the age demographic of who's on here, but I would love on Instagram, we are Women in Tandem. And our website is womenintandem.com. If you know anybody in the Riverside area or you're passing through town, we are a hub for courthouses. We have different occasions that go on in downtown Riverside. But if you know anybody, just tag, hey, I just heard about this great business, Women in Tandem. You never know who's still connected to the Inland Empire or Riverside. We can shop our pop-up. The link is in the bio on our Instagram. So we can ship, so you can buy products in the meantime, even if you can't use the space. If you're gonna have an event in the area, we are actually hosting a bridal shower on Sunday, nonprofit board meeting, anything we can do a day pass, memberships, event space, or you can shop our pop-up. I would love that.
Awesome. All right, you guys, you heard it here first. Those are all the ways you can help, but then also what we'll do is include it on the thank you email. So people who maybe didn't join us live, but are gonna watch it in a recording later can also have all that information. So a couple of fun questions. You are married to a fellow USD alum. So tell us about how you two met. And then I hear you got married in Founders Chapel, which is also very exciting. So talk to us a little bit about that.
My husband and I, so we were not married when we went to USD. We had met in high school, but we both ended up at University of San Diego. I had a few AP credits, so I finished in 3 years, and he was there for 4. I worked at Aromas, he worked at the bookstore, and we ended up returning when I finished law school at USD to get married at Founders Chapel by Father Mike White. It was definitely close to our hearts, and we go back to San Diego very often because we enjoy it so much.
Well, next time you're in San Diego, you're going to have to let us know so we can get together in a safe way, of course, everyone, of course. Alrighty, so another thing I wanted to ask you was a couple of your favorites. So what is your favorite podcast right now? And then what is a book that you would recommend to anyone listening or watching to read?
I still like How I Built This. It's a great motivator to hear how people started their companies. They obviously introduce people that are making millions and millions, but it's wonderful to hear that it started from an apartment and they didn't tell anybody for a year, or they worked so hard just on who the customer was so that they really targeted the customer. And I think customer discovery is your biggest thing you can do in starting a business. Know exactly who you're talking to, and that what you're selling is a product or service that is solving a problem for them and that they're willing to pay for it.
And then what about a favorite book of yours?
Okay, so I actually have it because I'm at my space and we keep a bookcase. We ask all our members to bring an inspiring book that any woman should read. The book I have, before anybody thinks it's like hippy dippy, I know it's pushed out by a lot of large organizations, but the Enneagram, this specific book is The Wisdom of the Enneagram. And I like it because you can just flip quickly to a section and not have to read the whole book, but it's basically 9 personality profiles. It doesn't say one is good or one is bad. It's based usually on childhood experiences and how you have dealt with them as survival mechanisms as a child, and whether or not they've translated in a healthy way to being an adult. So you can be an unhealthy number or a healthy, depending on the characteristics you exhibit. And it has allowed me to give people so much grace. Instead of the golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. I tend to weigh towards treat people how they want to be treated.
Awesome. Thank you. Alrighty. So that's all the questions that I have for you, but now we have about a couple of minutes to review some of the questions that some individuals wrote during registration. So we'll roll through those right now. The first is, what is the best piece of advice you have ever received personally and professionally?
I think professionally has probably been, will it matter in a year? So there's a lot of decisions to make every single day, and people can quickly experience decision fatigue. Am I on the right path? Am I doing this? And sometimes we spend too much time on a decision that really isn't significant. So taking a step back when you feel like that's happening and saying, will this decision matter in a year? So I think professionally, that's a good one. Personally, really having good boundaries. I kind of hinted at it before, but having people around you that are good resources for you. So that friend that gives you a kick in the butt when you need it, the friend that's your cheerleader, the one that will let you just let out all your anxieties. Make sure you identify who that friend is, because when you're busy with kids, working, it's easy to think you're venting to someone and then they can just tear you down because they're trying to help, but it's not helpful. So I think personally having good boundaries of who you share what with and making sure they're a safe person for you.
Awesome. So a couple of people on this call are probably looking to or interested in starting their own business. So what tips and advice would you share with them, but specifically to women who are looking to start their own business?
So one, looking back now, I have partnered with someone for the retail section of my space, and it has been a dynamic and easy adventure compared to when I started this a year ago. Looking back, I wish I had a partner, but I'm a control freak and I wanted my vision. I think if you really do those things I mentioned, like Gallup Strength Finders, do the Enneagram personality test, really narrow down your strengths, your values, and your personality traits that are super positive and healthy, and then really outline what somebody to partner with could have that you aren't bringing to the table, and start looking for that person. So don't just pick a friend that's like, oh, cool, they'll help me. Really outline those characteristics. And I think really working with a partner is huge. So I know it's extremely scary, but if you invest time to try and find a partner, I think that would be one tip. And I did not start Women in Tandem with a partner, but now having done the retail, I wish I had. The second is, so I used to be a trial attorney and we would always get the tips. You're never going to be ready for trial. Just do it, because you could always find another witness, get another statement, do something else. Same thing with a business. Of course, do your legwork, use your resources of people you already know. You do not have to hire professional this, professional that. Look around you if you have a friend who has a company and ask them, who did you use for your legal branding? Start asking those questions, use your resources, but you also have to start the company. Like actually when I started my space, my language changed of who I was talking to, and the amenities and things that I offered changed. And I never would have known that had I not actually started the thing.
I think that's a really great piece of advice. And that's a common theme that we've heard from a lot of our alumni is just get started, right? We had a real estate event in Seattle, and our 2 alumni who were on the call said, when's the best time to invest in real estate? Right now. Or it was 10 years ago, and now it's right now. Do not wait. Go ahead and get started. There's different ways to do it. So it's just that foot in the door that you need to kind of get that kickstart.
And I don't mean that everything has to be perfect, like start it and everything has to be perfect. Obviously, start it lean, but you have to start it to start getting some of that experience.
Absolutely. So one of the things you had mentioned is bringing in a partner. You wish you had brought in a partner, and then you assess your strengths and you figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for her, all of the above.
Yes.
So a question from an attendee says, we love that you mentioned StrengthsFinder. Can you share some of your own strengths?
Ooh, okay. So 4 of my top 5 are in the execution. There's like 3 subject, and 4 of my top 5 are in executing. So it's responsibility, diligence, consistency, restorative. So those are all kind of in the executing. And then my 5th is relator. And so also on the Enneagram, I'm a 6, if anybody is looking at that. So why those are important is that I will get the job done, but I will get very anxious, which is why starting a business is ridiculous that I even did it, because I take responsibility very seriously, but my anxiety can make me think I can't do it all and get paralyzed. So because I know that one of my other strengths is relator, when I get into the details or the weeds, I know I need to go to relator and connect to people. So that's when I engage with my members, because I see them using the language that I envisioned for this space. I got so much done today. I just needed to get away from all those distractions. I can't believe I got all this done. All those were the language that I wanted people to feel. I don't feel alone trying something new. So those are my strengths.
Awesome. So another question submitted in the Q&A was, Whit has a great Instagram. How do you develop your social media skills, and what does your content planning look like?
So it took a lot of work at first. If you go back, and I've never deleted it because I like it, but I like it as reference. If you go back to the very beginning, it was before I even had a physical space, and I was just trying to create a vibe of supporting women. So it was like quotes, but it wasn't my pictures. It was free pictures online. But it was trying to relate to a theme of empowering women and feeling okay about your struggles in life. Then I started paying attention, going to like a social media class, which I felt like a total dork because I already feel old, but it was really helpful just of who are you talking to? What problem are you solving? How do you tell a story? And I still feel like I have strides to make, a lot of strides to make in that. But like I said before, customer discovery and knowing who your client is huge, because you will scoop up other people. And once you start doing it and keep logging on to courses or paying attention to those things, you'll start it's never going to be perfect right away unless you completely hire somebody else, which can get extremely expensive. But start figuring out who you're talking to. And if you need to outsource, like it's not your strength, outsource, but make sure it's your language and your vision. But I do content planning. So for that person asking if it was more specific, I do map out. I don't do it a year at a time, but I have themes for each month and whatever product I'm pushing. So I do plan out every month.
So this, we have time for about 2 more questions. So this question is in relation to the Inland Empire Torero Club, because that is the group that is putting on today's program. You live in Riverside, which is the city within the Inland Empire. So what would be your best advice for someone new to the Inland Empire who wants to get more involved?
Okay, so depending on the age group, I would say if you're 21 or older, you should join the PIC group of young professionals. It's really hard right now, I know, because there's not in-person gathering events, but finding your niche. The reason I say that is those are dedicated young professionals that care about the community. So if you care about community service, if you care about kind of knowing the politics of what's going on, or getting connected in, I would definitely do PIC group of young professionals. Please, to that person, please email me. I'd love to connect you because I think there's a lot more specific things I could refer you to. But I think for sure the PIC group of young professionals is a great way to start.
Great. And then another question from Felisa is, with starting a business and leaving a profession, did you face opposition from loved ones?
Not so much from loved ones. I had a difficult time leaving my actual job because a narrative was spun of why I left. Oh, she just wants to go spend time with her kids. I actually had some gender discrimination stuff happened at work, and I complained about it. I did not like the way the administration handled it. And it got to a point where I couldn't believe in the vision anymore. And I knew that if I left, it wouldn't matter why I left. Because the narrative would change no matter what. So it wouldn't, I can't control that. So actually my loved ones were really supportive. I think they were careful about saying, but what are you going to do? So I did stay home for about 10 months when I left my job. And that I did have 2 WIT events at my house to kind of give a vibe, introduce it to my friends, before I started even looking for a physical space. So I did have support from my loved ones, but it was after struggling with how to manage the work situation.
Okay, and our last question is, where do you see Women in Tandem in 5 years?
I want it to be a franchise that people buy. I think there should be one of these in every community on its own scale that's serving its community. There are so many driven women that want to keep doing more, and we get exhausted, fatigued, or we think we're alone and we're the only ones doing it. And I think every community would be better if there was a space where they felt like they could walk in, take a deep breath, get stuff done, be taken care of, and then go continue to serve their community.
I agree. Hey, let's start one in San Diego if we don't have one already.
There is a franchise called Hera Hub, so check it out. There's a couple in San Diego.
USD alum owned is Hera Hub, I think.
Yes.
Right? Very cool. Gosh, USD is just killing it in the women-owned businesses supporting women. I love it. Well, Anna, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. You had so many great tidbits that I know the individuals on this call really appreciated. I know people who are going to join us later in the recording did as well. Understand and thank you for joining us today. This slide that I'm showing right here is a way for you all to connect with us. So you already have my email, and if you don't, I'm surprised. But we also have Anna's email, which is anna@womenintandem.com. We also have a listing of other events on the screen for you to check out. Because we cannot congregate in person, have an event almost every single day of the week, which is really exciting, and we offer a lot of different programming. So we hope that you'll join us. Feel free to check us out at alumni.sandiego.edu. And then we also have a couple of other virtual offerings, such as a Tiny Tourist Storytime podcast, team mentoring platform if you want to be interested and get involved with mentoring students, and some alumni Zoom trips and some more interviews and spotlights on YouTube. So thank you again for Anna for joining us today. We really appreciate it. I really enjoyed our conversation. And thank you to everyone who attended. Have a great night, everyone, and take care.